Hey, what's up, pro wrestling fans? Welcome to Nation's Corner. I am front row as always. Tonight we have a special show. We're going to be previewing Forbidden Door, and with me tonight are Too Sweet Neil and Ezra Vickrey. What's up, guys?
What's up?
What's up, y'all?
We have a special guest tonight.
Ready to get the show going.
Yep, we have a very special guest tonight, and I'm excited for this one because I've known our friend Karen for a very long time, and she is an expert in all things Japan, New Japan, Pro Wrestling Nova, Stardom, like all of it. And I'm super excited to have her come on and share a lot of that stuff with us as we go through the card for Forbidden Door. But I wanted to talk just briefly about a couple of things before we jump into that card. I wanted to give a shout out to our friend RA, who's on location in Oklahoma City at the Oklahoma City Pop Culture Con with Mission Pro. There's a live show going on right now. Thunder and Holodead and the whole Mission Pro crew are out there putting on a show. And man, go check out the socials. Go check out Mission Pro socials for a bunch of cool videos. And thanks to RA for sponsoring that show on behalf of the Nation's Corner. We appreciate it.
Yep.
Also, just wanted to touch on that there's a big Mission Pro pay-per-view coming up in August called Hard Day's Night, and we're going to be talking more about that pay-per-view in the coming weeks. And I think talking to the brass over there, they're going to give us some access to some talent for some interviews. So I'm super excited for all that good stuff. But let's get to what we're here for tonight, and that's Forbidden Door. I am so excited, and let's welcome into the show our friend Karen Peterson.
Hi, gentlemen.
Hey, Karen. Hello.
Hello, Karen.
Hello.
Okay,
I'm sorry, front row. Before you get started, I just have to say I love the background. Beautiful.
For someone who has never been to Korakuen Hall, I use this backstage segment, a backdrop from the New Japan Together project, for a lot of Zoom meetings and a lot of podcasts.
Well, it's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so cool. I've been a big fan of Japanese culture for a long time, since before I was a pro wrestling fan. And you and I share a love of the culture, but we've also both been to Japan. I've only been to Japan for like a 3-week visit, but you've spent, a significant amount of time there. So I wanted to pick your brain a little bit. What are a couple of the things that made you fall in love with the culture, and maybe one or two things from your time over there that you remember?
Oh, gosh. All right. So 14-year-old Karen discovered Sailor Moon when it first came to the United States. Before that, I was a Nintendo girl playing Super Mario and Duck Hunt and Legend of Zelda. So I was the weird kid at school that had the Sailor Moon lunchbox and would go to like all the stores to find like a really bad dubbed VHS tape. But at 14, I decided one day I'm going to go either live or study in Japan. By the time I was turning 24, I had my bags packed and I was on a plane. I was going to a very rural part of Japan to go teach English as a high school teacher for 4 years, and I did elementary school for 1. Came back to the States, worked at a Japanese boarding school. I was a Japanese qualified flight attendant, and now I'm in a job where I use absolutely no Japanese, but I have wrestling, and wrestling is how I use my Japanese now.
I was going to say, I see a lot of Japanese on your timeline, so.
It's one of those things, like for me, I've spent over 20 years working with the language in various capacities, whether it's like trying to translate comic books or trying to, study grammar and literature. But the problem is that you don't, like everything else, like any other skill, if you don't use it, you start losing it. And I've spent too much time and too many years of my life working with the language that I force myself to try to keep my skill sharp. And I know that my grammar's gone down. I know my level's gone down since I've moved back and I'm not surrounded with it anymore. But I still keep trying.
Yeah, it's hard. All of the Japanese I know is pretty much from martial arts, and my brief visit there, I can order food. And I can read some of the train station signs for the JR rail stuff. That's
as long as you can read the signs and ask where the bathroom is, you're fine.
Yeah. I would
Good to know.
They have the picture menus, and I say, Kuriwa, what is this?
Yes. Kuriwa nandesu. What is this?
I don't know what the response was, so I could ask, what is this? But I didn't know what they were saying, so I would just order it anyway and hope for the best.
Hey, sometimes, see, if you don't have food allergies, that's a great way to try to experience Japan. I'm allergic to seafood, so it's one of those things like I had to carry a sheet in my wallet that said, I'm allergic to all of these things on this menu, what has none of these things?
Yeah, my wife is in the chat too. Mrs. Front Row is also allergic to shellfish, which made it very difficult. And we were there in 2010 before we really had the use of our smartphones.
Yeah.
So it was, made a little bit. Now you have access to everything. So
Hey, is Mrs. Front Row offering to buy donuts? Because I love
She is.
donuts, and I won't say no. I won't say no to
I'm here
donuts.
for it. I'm here for it. If she's offering to buy donuts, I'm there.
Yep, our friend Trend is in the chat too. She is also allergic to shellfish. So it's always fun when we get together. We eat a lot of steak together. That's kind of what we do.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
Nope.
Okay, so let's dive into this card. So it's been interesting. I think the build. Before we talk about the individual matches, I wanted to get your thoughts on the relationship between the companies because, if you guys have had a chance to listen to Mox's interview on Renee's pod this week, he really goes into depth about how he kind of forged this relationship. He had a contract with New Japan really before any of this, Forbidden Door stuff even happened. And the politics between the companies obviously changed when ownership changed and all that other stuff. So one of the things that concerned me when we first started hearing about this is traditionally the bigger company is going to have all their stars win all the matches, and there's a fear that the New Japan talents are just going to come here to lose. But we're not. I don't think we're going to see that. I think the level of superstar power from New Japan and the level of superstar power on AEW is a lot more equal than I think we had originally thought. So, Karen, I want to get your thoughts a little bit on what the relationship looks like to you.
Currently or from the beginning?
Today, right now.
From right now, I think throughout the pandemic, they've developed a positive rapport. Because it's very much what the Japanese wrestling industry did amongst the independent companies is they all came together basically to survive the pandemic. So it was, New Japan wasn't just working with AEW, they were working with Impact, they were working with ROH a little bit before ROH, went on its merry little hiatus. And even, with places like Warrior Wrestling and other independent like GCW. And it's one of those things where the phrase Forbidden Door actually came from Tanahashi's match with Chris Jericho back right before 2020 Wrestle Kingdom. So it's one of those things that, to have that phrase evolve into what it is now. It's good. But for me, as someone who's more on the New Japan side than on the AEW side of the fence, I've had frustrations, and I've never been shy about talking about it, purely because a lot of AEW, a lot of New Japan talent that has come over has also lost a lot on AEW television. It's very rare that a New Japan talent has won a match on AEW television. It's happened, but it hasn't felt balanced. Now, when it comes to Forbidden Door, yes, of course, as a fan of more on the New Japan side than the AEW side, I was concerned about the imbalance of it all. So it's one of those things where I feel like they're doing the best with what they have, but at the same time, it's frustrating because for what we're having to pay, for what fans are paying for tickets and what fans are paying at home to watch it on pay-per-view. We got the G1 Supercard for cheaper. And that had everybody. So it's like I'm cautious. When they announced it, I was always in the cautiously optimistic camp, but I'm not going to let my imagination get the best of me and run away, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And, we've seen some of that stuff. And I think there's a fatigue from the fans' perspective where we just had a big pay-per-view with AEW. Now they're asking the fans to pay, basically retail for another one as opposed to every quarter, which is more palatable.
Yeah.
The other difficult thing that I have had with it is that traditionally New Japan likes to keep all of their cards secret until the very last moment. They want to wait till a tour finishes before they can progress on to the next one and release the match cards. Since this show is pretty much almost an instant sellout within like the first day or two, there hasn't been a rush to start releasing matches and releasing names. I also feel like on the AEW side, they worked too hard to make everything a tournament and try to build everything into a story when it didn't need to be. especially when you have blood and guts 3 days afterwards.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And Ezra, we were talking about this the other night about how the injuries have sort of plagued this card and forced them to come up with tournaments that they may not have otherwise had.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a rough go for AEW and New Japan both when it comes to the build up to this pay per view, because there were a lot of set matches that a lot of people thought were going to happen, and even when it comes to internally, that's the way it looked. I mean, we all thought we were going to have Zack Sabre Jr. and Bryan Danielson to show who's the best technical wrestler is, but unfortunately, Daniel Bryan's still not cleared and can't compete, and he won't even be at Blood and Guts either. So they've had to do the whole mystery opponent thing. And now we just learned before we came on air that Hiromu Takahashi is now out because of a fever, and he hasn't even flown to the U.S. yet, and he's now out of the cards. Now they're changing the 8-man tag, the Dudes with Attitudes versus Bullet Club, into a 6-man tag now. And then, of course, there's been injury. Of course, Omega's been out for a while, and now Ishii, unfortunately, knee injury, he's out. So Clark Connors had to take his place in the All Atlantic Championship 4-way. So unfortunately, both sides of the fence are feeling the effects of the injuries, illnesses, and it's been shuffling the card a little bit. But even with that, I still think it's one of the stronger cards of the year, and I think it's really, despite the build with the way it came out, it's still going to deliver no matter what, because I think with the amount of talent, like you said, the superstar talent on both sides of the spectrum, when you have, the Moxleys and the Chris Jerichos, and then you've got Tanahashi, Okada, Jay White, Adam Cole, you look at both sides of the coin, I think this card is going to absolutely deliver in the biggest of ways.
Yeah, so let's talk about some of the matches here. There's 12 matches on the card, I think, with 3 matches on the buy-in, right?
Yes.
So you basically have 9 matches on the main show, which is a little tight. Usually like 8 is comfortable. So you start to get concerned for time. They're either going to have a long pay-per-view or someone's going to have a couple of short matches. Personally, I don't want to see the women get stuck with the short match because that seems to happen too much in wrestling. But we'll talk about that in a minute. And I see some folks in the chat. You mentioned Zack Sabre Jr. And if you watched, I forget the name of the special, but the special they had on last night after Rampage, really, really well done. And if folks want to get a really nice overview and why these matches are important and a better introduction to some of the Japanese talent or the New Japan talent, definitely go back and watch that, because I think it's a good primer, and it's only about 25 minutes long. But Zack Sabre Jr. was, there was a lot of animosity there, and I think he was expressing a lot of disappointment about not being able to face Bryan Danielson. I personally, because of Bryan Danielson's promo and the things that he said, I'm leaning towards a Claudio appearance. But I've seen some other stuff, and I've seen some other comments in the chat. Mrs. Front Row says she wants to see Gargano, which would be a great match. I don't know that they have the history. So who do you guys think would be a good fit or a good – no one's on Bryan Danielson's level from a star power perspective, but from a match quality perspective, who do you want to see in this match?
I guess I'll just start because I open my mouth and I talk, but which I do a lot of. But I agree with you, Front Row. Claudio Castagnoli. Just a little side note backstage. When Bryan Danielson cut the promo and said everything he said on Dynamite, after it happened, Trenda called me because Trenda is a massive Zack Sabre Jr. fan, loves the guy. So she was just to the moon that he actually showed up on Dynamite. And she said I forget who she said exactly, but I said, oh, what about Claudio Castagnoli, Cesaro for the WWE people with his name. And she was just like, oh, I didn't even think about that. But that was my first thought when Bryan Danielson said he couldn't go for Forbidden Door and he couldn't go for Blood and Guts. I was like, just the pure technical physicality and the strength and just matching Zack Sabre Jr. with the technicality, but overpowering him with the physicality and the strength, Claudio Castagnoli was my immediate, thought of who it's going to be.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I definitely agree it's going to be Claudio. One of the things, though, I noticed is, he mentioned about someone who could take it to Zack Sabre Jr. on a technical level and who could deliver the violence. Claudio's a guy who's not only known for his technical ability, but the man is a vicious striker. His uppercuts, as we know, seeing him in WWE and Ring of Honor, if you watched it back then, are some of the most powerful things he could do. And also, one thing, Excalibur said when they did the little package, he said he was the newest member of the Blackpool Combat Club. And to me, Claudio fits that bill because of his technical ability, because of the physicality. To me, he fits the Blackpool Combat Club more than a Johnny Gargano would, or even though he's been was on TV on Rampage last night, a lot of people were even saying Jonathan Gresham because of the technical ability. But to me, I think when it comes to what the Blackpool Combat Club is about, is not only technicality, but brutality. I think that Claudio can bring both, and I think he would be the proper fit to face a guy like Zack Sabre Jr. at Forbidden Door tomorrow night.
Yeah, Karen, what say you?
If I may, if the answer is not Claudio, because I am a massive, massive fan, Chris Hero would be my other choice.
Oh!
The wrestling genius himself, who loves a good elbow, supremely talented technical wrestler. His cravat is one of my favorites. So I know that Chris hasn't wrestled, and he's been more like doing the podcast coaching thing. So that's more of like a pie in the sky sort of hope. And if not Chris, that's fine. Tony can just hire him and give him Ring of Honor and let him just run Ring of Honor and do like all the things.
Karen, I only met you like a half an hour, 40 minutes ago, but I already love you for saying that. I already love you for saying that. Massive Ring of Honor fan, have been for years. And you blew my mind like the Kramer Seinfeld gif of like, by saying that. I didn't even think about that. And just you saying Tony can hire Chris to give him Ring of Honor and just let him go. Yeah, I love you.
Well, thank you. My other selfish hope is that eventually him and Claudio will reunite and bring back the Kings of Wrestling.
Yes.
And I'm just
please.
I know that, everyone would be like, well, put the World Tag League. I want them to go back to Noah. I want them to go to Noah. I want them to join up with Timothy Thatcher. I mean, I've got plans for them, even though they don't know. But yeah, don't get me wrong. I love me some Johnny Gargano. I've loved me some Johnny Gargano. But Claudio, if it's not Claudio, I don't think it'll yield the same reaction.
No.
Well, you said another name in Timothy Thatcher. What that would be amazing too.
Thatcher is working in Noah right now. He is in Japan. So
he's currently still there.
He's challenging for the GHC Tag Team Championships with Hideki Suzuki on July 16th. So they're doing a bunch of road shows right now. So that's where it gets tricky because it's a New Japan AEW show. I don't think AEW would be leaning into the DDT Noah connection that they have. Which is why Takeshita is not on the show either.
Who?
Takeshita. Konosuke Takeshita.
Yes.
Yes.
From DDT. So that's. I know a lot of people were throwing out Thatcher. I would love. Yes, please, and thank you. But he's third place after Chris and Claudio. So Thatcher's right here.
We have to keep going back to Brian's promo, and he said there was one person that he would trust, and only one person. So Timothy Thatcher sounds great, but I don't think they have the history that he has with Claudio. There's no other name that I can think of that's on the available list that has all of the classifications based on the promo and based on the level of skill and based on the crowd reaction, both online and in the room. So we shall see.
Front row, one thing I do want to mention before we move on, Karen, you mentioned Chris, and I know it's completely coincidental, and it is completely coincidental.
Is it though? Are there always things as coincidences? Because I know where you're going with this.
Because Chris is doing the Warrior Wrestling meet and greet before the show, so he is going to be in the area. So
it's just across the street.
Yes,
just
it is.
Saying.
Hey, something to think about.
Yeah.
So again, with 12 matches on the card, we're not going to have time to talk to each one of them, but we'll touch on them. I'm sort of working backwards. So the match I think that I'm obviously have a bias towards, what I'm looking forward to is the Thunderstorm match. It's Thunder Rosa versus Tony Storm. We've seen Thunder and Tony come to each other's aid over the last few weeks. Thunder was on Busted Open this week on Friday talking about how Mark Henry sort of coached her and Tony in the way that they've interacted, and I thought that was really interesting. So go back and listen if you didn't hear the Thunder Hour on Friday. But and we caught up with Thunder last night, and she was saying something similar to what she said in the interview. There's a lot of pressure on these women to have a killer match because not only are the only women's match on the card, they're also the only AEW pure match on the card. There's no New Japan talent in the card. So they're basically representing the company from a strictly contracted talent perspective. So they have high expectations, and I think these are the right people to put on the match on a show that is going to be crazy with technical wrestling. We're going to see some incredible stuff. And if I were to pick two people from the women's roster to put on a technical match, these are the two. Karen, what are your thoughts on this match?
One of the misconceptions that people have is that Stardom is New Japan's women's roster, and it's not. Stardom is owned by the same parent company, and while they have had crossover work with Wrestle Kingdom and other big stadium shows, it's one of those things where I think any crossover that Stardom will have with New Japan outside of Japan will happen after their show in November. Tony and Thunder both have experience in Japan, both within Stardom and with Thunder also going over to Tokyo Joshi Pro, which she'll be going back to in 2 weeks for Summer Sun Princess to fight Miyu Yamashita. When you think of all the other, when people think traditional Japanese Joshi, Maki Ito, Hikaru Shida, Yuka Sakazaki, those are all individuals that do not work for Stardom. Stardom and Tokyo Joshi Pro are two separate places, and those rosters don't cross over. Riho would have been the exception, but she was a freelancer when she was working with Stardom and AEW concurrently. I think there's a lot of pressure on them as the only women's match. I can guarantee you it's going to be a match everyone's going to talk about because both are very competent wrestlers, very outstanding wrestlers, and in regards to Japan, very decorated wrestlers.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. So both have had, significant experience in Japan doing multiple tours each against some of the toughest competitors over there. And we don't always see that style of wrestling from the women's roster because not everybody on the women's roster has had that experience. But when you put Thunder and Hikaru Shida together, you put Tony Storm with even a Mercedes Martinez, these people who have hard-hitting, like physical style matches, that's when you really get to see the best from the women's division, in my opinion. So Neil, I know you also had a chance to talk to Thunder about this last night. What are your thoughts on this match? Is she going to retain this title, or is it Tony Storm's?
I personally feel like she's going to retain. It's still too early, even though we as a group, like you said when you brought it up, little biased to Thunder. Personally, I haven't known, but I've seen and I followed Tony Storm longer than I have Thunder Rosa. My first exposure to Thunder Rosa was only back in 2019 when I was at WrestleCon in New York City, and I saw Thunder and Holodag wrestle a tag match as the Twisted Sisters. But I had seen Tony Storm a lot earlier before that with Stardom when she was, she held 3 belts in Stardom. Like, there was a point in Tony's career when I first became, knowledgeable of her and saw her wrestle. She had 3 belts in Stardom, and then she won the Progress Women's title. So I'm like, okay, not just because she had 4 belts, but I was like, okay, this girl's doing something. And just I had to watch it, and I sought it out, and I found it, and I watched, and just her work in Stardom was just bar none some of the best. I mean, not being no disrespect to any of the other women in Stardom at the time, but Tony was just killing it. She was firing on all cylinders in Stardom, and I was just like, holy shit. Like, if this girl ever comes to America, she's just gonna light America's women's division, no matter where she goes, on fire. And we know she didn't, where she was before and where she is now, but I want to see her. I want to see that Stardom Tony Storm. I want to see that Stardom Tony Storm. And I know this woman is not involved in the match, and she's completely different. But I want to see them give Jamie Hayter the chance. Put Jamie Hayter, the Stardom Jamie Hayter, when she was tag champs with Bea Priestley. She's got to go away from Britt Baker and that whole thing and just be herself on her own. But like you to answer your question, Thunder's winning. I don't see Thunder losing. She's got too much momentum. She's too big of a star, and the story that she had to fight to get to where she is now as the champion, I don't see them taking the belt off of her this soon.
Yeah. Ezra?
Yeah, for me, I'm going with Thunder as well. To me, this is an excellent match because it's a match of very similar styles if you look at it. Two hard-hitting, physical women who can also are very technically sound. And, I think this match overall, I think it's going to be one of the best matches on the card, and I think it'll stand out above some of the other matches on Forbidden Door, because not only is it a women's match, but like I said, the experience these two women have, the way they're able to wrestle that Japanese style, they could do it all. And Tony has shown, like I said in one of the chat discussions there, she has been very aggressive as of late. Tony has. She's shown a little bit of a more physical, harder hitting side, and I think that's going to play into this match. And it's gonna make Thunder want to fight harder. And I mean, we know Thunder, and we know how hard she fights as it is. I mean, she's one of the toughest women on the planet, and she lays her stuff in, no doubt. So I think this match overall is going to be one of the big standouts on this card, and I think it's going to shine above some of the other big matches we have, because you give them a good amount of time, you give them a good story to tell, I guarantee you that could be match of the night for sure. But I am definitely going with Thunder retaining and taking that title to Japan.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing we've been talking about, and I've been saying it on this show. I've been screaming from the mountaintops. Currently, there are no AEW talents who have defended their titles outside of the United States. In my mind, that means there are no real world champions. If the women's world champion goes to Japan and defends her title, she becomes the first AEW world champion. I don't know if Tony Khan's going to let that happen. I don't know anything about the backstage behind this stuff, but boy, I want to see it. It would be cool. Okay, so let's move on. There's a
wait. Karen.
Real quick. The AEW World Heavyweight Championship has been defended at the Tokyo Dome with Tanahashi and Jericho back in 2020. So this would be the second title for AEW to be defended abroad.
No. Actually, that was not. Actually, it wasn't defended. It was if Tanahashi beat Jericho would give him a shot later on.
Oh, is that what it was? Oh,
yes.
Apologies.
Yeah.
I for some reason, maybe it was the jet lag, I always thought that was what that match was about. But anyway, with Thunder going to Tokyo Joshi Pro, they're billing it as her as AEW champion. So I don't know if they would necessarily do a title switch right before she's supposed to represent the company as AEW champion.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Karen, Front Row's, he's been saying it when we've been on Zoom and watch-alongs and, privately and everything. He's right, though. We just want to see somebody from AEW defend their title outside of the country to finally make it a world title. And Thunder would be perfect at Tokyo Joshi Pro.
Yeah, and currently that's not a title defense. They're not advertising it as a title defense, but just personally, I would love to see that happen. So one of the things I wanted to get your thoughts on is I want to talk about the tag title match, which is winner take all match. We saw a lot of Ring of Honor representation on Rampage last night, like all over the show. Even seeing Caprice Coleman on commentary. So this match, obviously, we've got FTR versus United Empire versus Roppongi Vice. I don't know. Like, I'm a huge FTR fan. I think that they are, in my opinion, the best tag team on the planet. I know there's an argument there for other people. I totally get it. But I just love their style. I think they can wrestle a good match with pretty much anybody. And their match with the Briscoes was just one of the best matches in the last decade. So I want to get your thoughts on this match. Do we see FTR who's going to take these titles? Because you're going to have the Ring of Honor and IWGP Tag Team Champions walking out of this match.
Oh, that is an absolute tough one, man. This is tough because you got new champions basically with the Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb. They just won the tag titles, and but FTR, like you said, arguably one of the best tag team on the planet in a lot of people's eyes. It's a really tough call. I don't know. It's going to be a hell of a match because you got three great teams. You got O'Khan and Jeff Cobb, who's a newer team, versus with two established teams. You got FTR has been a team for almost a decade, and then you got Roppongi Vice, who has won the junior heavyweight tag titles and has been in Tokyo Dome and done it all. This isn't a strange thing to them. They've been in these big pressure match situations, so they know what they're doing. But overall, I think I'm gonna have to go with FTR over Cobb and Great O'Khan. I think it would be good representation for FTR to be able to take those titles, both sets, to Japan and defend them over there, or even defend them on Strong. I think it would be great. I think it would be great for not only the relationship with AEW and New Japan, but I also think it would bring a different style. I mean, we see New Japan with the Strong style, we see him with the High Fly, we see him with all different sorts of styles, but to have FTR bring that old school Minnesota Wrecking Crew, old school tag team brainbuster style to New Japan, I think it'll be awesome to see some people wrestle with FTR. We get to see more established heavyweight tag teams. Like, I would love to see two people who are on the card tonight or tomorrow night, Yoshihashi and Hiroki Goto. I'd love to see them go at it. I would love to see, other big heavyweight tag teams. Even Chase Owens, Bad Luck Fale. So I think that would be good. But I think FTR is going to win this match.
Yes, I have to agree with Ezra. I think FTR is going to win. I mean, they're just on fire, and having the Ring of Honor tag titles, having the AAA tag titles, and them winning the IWGP heavyweight tag titles would just really solidify them as a top tier tag team across the world. Personally, for me, I would have loved to have seen the Young Bucks been in this match and make it a fatal 4-way, and you have three tag titles on the line. So you tie in all the working companies, but it hasn't happened. It hasn't been booked. It's not going to be, because the Young Bucks are part of Bullet Club match, and FTR's in the triple threat match. But that to me has to happen sometime down the road, and you just have to tie it all in together. But I feel FTR are going to win. They're going to take the IWGP tag titles, and they'll hold on to them, and they'll go to World Tag League. And I would love to see them in World Tag League, and I would love to see them defend them at the Tokyo Dome in Wrestle Kingdom. So it to me would be like the perfect scenario, because they already hold Ring of Honor. Give them New Japan IWGP. You put them in World Tag League. You put them at Wrestle Kingdom. You have them put both belts up, and it works. Like I already subscribe to New Japan World and watch Wrestle Kingdom religiously already. So why not even make it more for the AEW fan and the American fan who doesn't really know? That's how I would book, the working relationship.
Okay, I see, Karen, you have some thoughts.
Yes.
So one of the biggest obstacles in all of this is that FTR is also the triple A tag team championships. And if we've learned anything about card subject to change throughout this process, I don't see CMLL being okay with FTR becoming IWGP tag team champions so long as they hold those belts.
Yes.
So my proposition, put the belts on Roppongi Vice. Hear me out. This frees up FTR to go against the Young Bucks for the AEW tag team championships. Let them win that, have them come to Tag League, then have at some point, whether I love Roppongi Vice, I don't expect them to be a long reigning tag team. But this way, knowing Rocky and him being sneaky, super sneaky, and everything that he's done the last few years for the company to get both of the companies to where they're at right now, he's done a lot of putting everybody else over but himself. So if anybody needs this the most, it's him and Trent. And it would also open the door for Trent to come back and have Roppongi Vice in World Tag League as open weight / junior heavyweight, whatever tag team champions. I love O'Karn and I love Jeff Cobb. I still didn't agree with them losing the belt at Dominion to begin, or at Don Taco to begin with, for all of the Bullet Club stuff. But anyway, that's my biggest. It all hinges on the fact that if FTR weren't holding the AAA belts, I'd be like FTR all the way, no problem. But because that's there, they need to find a way to get that part of it, the equation, removed, and then they can move on forward.
Okay, I have a question, Karen. Then, I know that FTR is contracted AEW, but they hold AAA. Just like Lucha Brothers are contracted AEW and Andrade, but AAA isn't letting them work. So
from what I understand, AAA, Penta, Phoenix, Rouge, Dragon Lee, Dralistico, like the third brother, they were all formerly in CMLL. They all left CMLL.
Yeah.
And eventually found their way over to AAA, and that's the problem. The politics between AAA and CMLL weighs into everything, and the relationship with New Japan with CMLL is much longer than AEW's ever been in existence.
Yes, no, I know that. But...
So I feel like it's in the back of my mind, it's going to be a weighing factor on this match regardless.
So would you say before Tag League, maybe, and now hear me out, maybe tomorrow night FTR wins the whole thing, and between tomorrow night and Tag League, maybe they drop the AAA titles?
I think it would have to be the other way around. They'd have to drop the AAA belts first.
Okay.
But that's my logic going, is that if CMLL politics have played into who can and can't be booked on this card, I also think it is also going to play into who can and can't win on this card.
No, that's understandable, and if you know, you know.
Yeah. So one of the other matches I think is really interesting is Pac versus Miro, Malachi Black, and Clark Connors. Now, Clark Connors was not supposed to be in this match.
No.
And can you smarten us up as to why Clark Connors was not supposed to be in this match?
Yeah. As you know, back in the New Japan Road Tour, Tomohiro Ishii won this little play-in tournament that was put together to have their representative go into the All Atlantic Championship four-way match at Forbidden Door. Well, Ishii suffered a knee injury and is now out. Clark Connors, who was on the losing end of the match against Ishii, will now take his place. And to me, the reason why he got this opportunity was because of that match. He opened up a lot of eyes on that match and showcased his grit, his determination, his overall wrestling ability. And to me, he earned that opportunity to get into this match. I'm excited for it because this is a big opportunity for Connors to showcase himself on a big platform, because he really hasn't had that chance outside of the Best of the Super Juniors tournament. So to me, overall, this is going to be an amazing, amazing match. I'll say this much: you got the Brute Miro, you got Malachi, who's probably the best striker in AEW, and you got Pac, who is one of the fastest guys, but also one of the most brutal guys because of his mean streak as a heel kind of. So it's gonna be a very interesting. It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be crazy. You know how these 4-way matches tend to get, but it's a tough call. But I think if you're gonna do an all Atlantic championship, it's gonna be. I think, you know what? I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna go with Miro, and that's only. And to me, I think it's only because of the way they've been building Miro back up since his return from injury. I think that's the root cause. Any other day, I would go with Malachi. But to me, I don't think Malachi needs the belt right now. I really don't. So I'm going to go with Miro on this one.
Okay, so I want to ask your opinion on this, but so this is for the brand new All Atlantic title, and the title itself is kind of wonky because this is a New Japan show,
Yeah.
not the Atlantic. But okay, I mean I don't have a map right here, but I'm guessing. But so like I look at Pac and I go, okay, Pac is like the Dolph Ziggler of AEW. He has great matches, but he's never in anything important. He's not really going to hold a world title. I don't see him in a storyline here that's going to put a title around his waist. I could be wrong. I just don't see him winning this match. To me, Miro is the guy, because I don't think you put it on Clark Connors, the new guy. So, Karen, what are your feelings on this new title, and who do you see emerging?
I mean, last time I checked, both China and Japan are on the Asia continent, meaning they are on the Pacific Ocean. Buddy Matthews is from Australia, which is in the Pacific Ocean. Bulgaria is landlocked, as is the Netherlands. So, and the LA Dojo is near the Pacific Ocean. So it stands to reason that Pac would be the only guy who could technically be an Atlantic champion, because the UK is on the Atlantic. However, I feel like it's going to be Miro.
I would agree. Neil?
I'm gonna have to agree with Karen and Ezra. I was going completely different, but after hearing what Ezra said, he really blew my mind and opened it to looking at it differently. I'm gonna have to agree. I'm gonna have to say Miro.
Cool. So there's two of the biggest matches on the card that I'm going to really dive into. And this match, Jay White versus Okada versus Hangman Page and Adam Cole. Like, holy crap. Like, that's a lot of talent in one match. That's a lot of star power in one match. We've seen the build to this match. We only found out this week that Okada was going to be in the match. But I think at no point did any of us think that they were going to have a show like this and not have him included somewhere, right? I look at the talent in this match, and it's really, I don't see them putting on I can immediately discount Adam Cole, but the other three I can see being I could see being the title holder. So yeah, let's go to you first. How are you feeling about this match, and who's going to hold this title?
All the way. Shirt right here says it all the way. Breed with him. It's his era. Switchblade all day. He just won the title. He just beat Okada at one of the biggest shows of the year for New Japan in Dominion. I do not see Switchblade Jay White losing this title. You said it. You can immediately discredit Adam Cole. Adam Cole out right away. Hangman Adam Page. He's great that he held the AEW title, but he's just not there yet to hold the IWGP World Heavyweight title. And if what I've read is true, what I've seen, Okada wants to take a little bit of time off after the G1 because his wife is pregnant and expected due date is in August. Okay. and knowing New Japan and being a fan for as long as I have, they just don't flip-flop titles. They put a title on a wrestler, that title is going to stay on them for an extended period of time. Especially somebody like Jay White. The guy was the first Grand Slam champion in New Japan, and now he holds the IWGP World Heavyweight title. I don't see him losing whatsoever. Jay White, hands down, wins the match no matter what.
Karen?
It's complicated because this match is actually billed below the AEW interim championship. It's a 4-way match for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, which is one championship they don't normally do this for.
Exactly.
Had Hangman been included in the G1, I would be more likely to lead towards him staging an upset.
Yes.
I feel like Jay is going to retain because he's going to pin Adam Cole. Personally,
Okay.
I would have preferred a Hangman Okada versus Adam Cole Jay tag match and left the title out of it, but since it's not closing the show, but that's just personal preference.
Yeah.
So just to your point, do you think that just having it on this pay-per-view elevates the equity of the IWGP title from an American audience perspective?
No. It elevates Jay White as champion, but it doesn't elevate the title.
I
Especially because it's not
closing.
If it were closing the show, perhaps. But you're basically already telling them that this title is less than an interim championship.
Yeah.
With Tanahashi and Mox closing the show.
No, I couldn't agree more with Karen.
The only thing I would argue is Tanahashi and Mox are enormous stars.
But Okada and Jay closed Madison Square Garden 3 years ago.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yes.
And Okada,
and it was a singles match.
Okada's been the face, and he's beaten everybody. And his last title reign before this one, with the version 4, was over 700 days.
Yeah,
like Okada's the guy. As much as everybody says Tanahashi is, and Tanahashi is the ace, and nothing against Tanahashi. Karen, I know you're a big Tanahashi fan.
I'm watching you, Neil.
I love the guy. The guy is amazing. He is the ace, and he's the guy that brought New Japan to the forefront for all American fans. But Okada's the new guy. Okada's been the guy since he's come back, won the first title, and he's held every time he's held it. Karen is right. If you're going to put the interim title on last, you're already saying that this world title doesn't mean as much, and they're not going to change it. Plus, you have Okada Jay White G1 tournament. We're already building to Wrestle Kingdom. It may not seem like that, but it's happening. And the G1 Climax tournament is going to be a massive push to what we see at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, Ezra?
I will start with this. IWGP Championships, unlike the never openweight 6-man tag team titles, are known for long reigns.
Or the U.S. Championship.
Bingo.
Yeah.
So I don't just in that retrospect, I don't think Switchblade is going to lose. I do agree with Karen. I think Adam Cole will eat the pin on this, and I think it'll set up a little kind of feud between Cole and Jay. Maybe I would love to see that personally, because I mean that's two of the best damn wrestlers on the planet. Adam Cole's one of the best, and I've always been an Adam Cole fan for years. But of course, I've always been a fan of King Switch since his excursion to Ring of Honor when he had that feud with who we know now as Damian Priest, Punishment Martinez. But this match is going to be an absolute banger. You got 4 of the best on the planet. You've got Hangman Adam Page, who, I mean, just had a pretty good reign as the AEW World Champ. You have Okada, who is a freaking god among Japanese wrestling. Jay, who has just absolutely been killing it. And then, of course, Adam Cole, baby. So it's a match that's going to be one of the best on the card, no doubt. But yeah, I'm going with King Switch to still walk out with the title. And it's going to be interesting with him holding the title, especially going into the G1. It's going to be real interesting to see how the result of this match plays out later on for New Japan.
Yeah, I would agree. And what's interesting to me is, typically the AEW crowd, whether it's live or online, they're used to a lot of fast-paced, explosive action. And not that New Japan isn't, but there's a lot. The style is different. It's very hard-hitting. It's very, at times, technical. There's some high flying, but typically it's more mat-based. And I'm looking at this card going, any one of these matches that we've talked about could be a technical match that steals the night for the most part, right? With the exception of, and I didn't want to skip over this because we'll get to the main event in a second, but Jericho, Sammy Guevara are teaming with Minoru Suzuki. I love this.
Murder
this
Grandpa.
Murder Grandpa. And, they're facing Eddie Kingston, Wheeler Yuta, and Shota Umino. But just as an aside, Wheeler Yuta has been awesome. He's taken every opportunity that's been in front of him and just hit home runs. We've seen him locally. We saw him last fall at the show with Suzuki here at PWX. And he's just terrific. And I was really, really glad to see that he was able to shine and become part of the Blackpool Combat Club. I don't know what to expect from this match, and that's fine. It's going to be a bloody brawl. They're going to beat the shit out of each other for however many minutes. It's going to be fun. And this is probably going to be the closest to an AEW style match that we're going to see, except for the tag matches that are on the pre-show, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be wild. I mean, come on. Eddie Kingston tried to stab Jericho with a pen on Rampage last night, for God's sake. That's how bitter this feud is between them two. And then you throw Sammy Guevara, who, of course, one of the best athletes that roster has. I mean, you throw in Suzuki.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be an absolute crazy, crazy wild brawl. And I'm a huge fan of Shota Umino. I think he has really progressed since his excursion. And to see him out there on Friday night to see him on Wednesday night brawling with the Death Rider shirt on, I thought was so cool. His connection to Mox there, I thought it's amazing. It's gonna be a really good brawl, great fight. That's a tough one. I mean, in Wheeler Yuta, dude, his performance in the Best of the Super Juniors was amazing.
Yeah. He killed it.
He killed it in the tournament. I thought he did an awesome job. Yeah. So I'm excited for this match. I'm actually gonna lean towards Jericho, Suzuki, and Guevara because when you have Suzuki on your side, you can't lose.
Yeah, I would agree. Karen?
So, if I may, personally, I think having a match that has implications for blood and guts should have been better saved for Dynamite, but I digress. I want Shota Umino to stage the upset, hear me out, join Blackpool Combat Club with Mox, and be the sixth man in Blood and Guts on Wednesday night.
Oh, I like that.
I love Karen. Karen's blowing my mind this whole show. I just love Karen. She's amazing. I gotta meet you in person, Karen.
If you see me at a show, please say hi.
Yeah,
Charlotte
for the New Japan Strong show on the 24th. I agree with what Karen said, but I agree with what Ezra said. Yeah, I would absolutely love to see Shooter in Blackpool Combat Club. But Ezra's right. You have Murder Grandpa on your side. You can't lose.
But he's lost on AEW television before.
Yeah, you just can't lose with Suzuki. Minoru Suzuki, you just can't lose with him.
This is a different step match, though.
He's not eating the pin, I'll tell you that much.
You're right about that. He ain't eating the pin. No, but I gotta go with, because it'll elevate the face if the heels win, but just Suzuki. I'm ready for Kingston and Jericho and Kingston and Suzuki.
So does this mean at the end of this match, if they win this match, that we'll see Suzuki wearing a Jericho Appreciation Society shirt?
No. Suzuki, you
Absolutely
wear
not.
Suzuki Goon. You wear Suzuki Goon or nothing.
Agreed.
He's got to
use
join
that shirt to
Suzuki
show one
Goon.
the attendance at ringside.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting to the top of the hour, and I do want to. We have to talk about the main event. We have to talk about Mox versus Tanahashi.
Oh yeah.
I think leading
Let's
up
go.
to this match, I don't think at any point we thought that Mox was going to lose in that tournament. We didn't think that Tanahashi was going to lose against Goto. So this was sort of the expected matchup, but it doesn't make me any less excited for it. And if you listen to the interviews with Mox, you see the stuff that they put out on social media and some of the clips from Tanahashi in that preview show. They've really wanted this match for a while. And Tony Khan's actually has blocked this match several times. He said in the media this week. And I know Mox was legit pissed about that. Like, he really wanted this match several times before, and it just hasn't happened until now on AEW. So, Ezra, I'm going to go to you first. I look at this and I'm like, this is for the interim title, and I feel like AEW has the opportunity to do something really different and special by putting this interim title on Tanahashi and letting him take it to New Japan. And here's why. Hear me out, Karen. Because we're hearing rumblings that the pay-per-view in July is going to be primarily a Ring of Honor featured pay-per-view. So you really don't have to worry about representing your AEW interim title during that time frame. If Punk's injury, as we hear, is only like 8 to 10 weeks and he's back in time for All Out, now that's where you have Tanahashi and Punk battle for that, for the unification of the title.
I think that's a very distinct possibility. I think it could happen. I mean, would I love to see Tanahashi, take that belt, represent it over in Japan, and eventually we get that match with Punk and All Out. Of course, in my neck of the woods of Chicago.
Of course, greedy bastard.
Would it be great? Absolutely. Will it happen is the big question. I don't know, because I mean, would I love to see a Mox CM Punk feud and have Mox, have that belt every week on Dynamite? Yeah, of course. But I'm gonna go Tanahashi. Shockingly, I think that what you said, front row, makes the most sense. Have him take that, because Death Before Dishonor is coming up. I believe it is July 23rd. So the focus is going to be on featuring the Ring of Honor talent that are going to be a part of that show. All Out is not until September. So until Labor Day weekend. So they have plenty of time to not only get Punk back healthy, 100% ready to go, but they also have to give time for Tanahashi to be the interim champion and still have him come out and, they say interim AEW World Champion all over every tour that he's on in New Japan Pro Wrestling, whether it's the G1, whether it's tournaments of this moment, blah, blah, blah. I think it makes the most sense. And I'm going with Tanahashi on this.
Yeah.
I was ready going with Tanahashi. Once Punk said he wasn't ready, I was going Tanahashi all the way. Tanahashi wins, takes the belt to Japan, and if I can just, I have to. I don't know. I think I told you, but I have to thank and shout out Chris Samsa at the Chris Samsa on Twitter, Sport of Pro Wrestling. Ezra and Karen know who I'm mimicking right now.
He's good people.
He is. I've never met him. Ezra, you should meet him this weekend.
I'm planning. I was talking to Chris the other day. Hopefully, we'll meet each other somewhere in the concourse of the UC. So,
he put out now for everybody out there, you included. He puts out the best stats and just so in depth, and I can't thank him enough for all the hard work he does. But he put out on his Twitter that there's only one Wednesday that Tanahashi is wrestling in the G1 Climax tournament. One. So just reading that and thinking about everything. And you always saying that the title is not a world title until it's defended out of the country, which is 100% true. I'm going Tanahashi. I've said, and I've thought it, and it's been my pick since Punk said he wasn't able to compete. Tanahashi. Put it on Tanahashi, does the G1, he defends it even once in Japan. You book Tanahashi all the way to next year. 100% picking Tanahashi. He's the ace. Why? How can you not pick him?
It's fair. Karen?
One of my arguments with Tanahashi has always been, if you want to elevate a belt, you put it on Tanahashi. He elevated the Never belt. He elevated the U.S. belt, even though both of his runs with it were very, very brief. So, in addition to his match with Punk falling through, shortly after that, he was interviewed and said, well, I've come back and forth to the United States over the last year plenty of times. Come to the Tokyo Dome. So, if we're going to talk about, pardon me, give and take, should FTR get the IWGP Tag Team Championship? There needs to be a reciprocal side to that for New Japan. Put the belt on Tanahashi. Even though he has all those Wednesdays off during the G1, my preference would be not to fly him back and forth while he's trying to work the G1.
Yeah.
Because if we want anything from
that's
this
crazy.
pay-per-view build alone, there's been more than enough injuries. You don't want him getting injured and having what happened with Naito last year during the G1, where he got first match, he blew out his knee and he was gone for the rest of the G1. To the point where fans were selling their tickets to the G1 because Naito was not there. I don't think New Japan would run that risk with Tanahashi by sending him back and forth. If that pay-per-view in July is focused on Ring of Honor, which it should be, then putting the belt on Tanahashi would make sense. Because also, Moxley could challenge him again. If he drops a loss or two during the G1 finals, he could defend the belt on the day of the G1 finals before the G1 finals happen. So it would, and of course, it would be a feel-good, I hate saying feel-good moment, but Tanahashi never had an international excursion like most of the young lions, including Okada, who have gone to Mexico or gone to the UK or come to the US. He never had that. What better way for him to have something akin to that than closing out the show, hoisting up a US championship?
Okay, so I have a question for you, Karen. We've seen many times, world champions represent their titles without having matches. In fact, I prefer it that way, that their presence in the ring is withheld for special matches. I don't need to see them wrestle every week. Do they have Tanahashi, because he's not a native English speaker and won't be cutting promos, every week? Does it make sense to have him come out every other week and just represent the title on Dynamite?
It's one of those things where the other problem with going back and forth into Japan is that going into Japan now, you still need to have a COVID PCR test. So if he's coming back, if he's shuttling back and forth during the G1, there is the possibility he could get COVID in transit, which would just ruin everything for everyone. He wouldn't be able to work AEW. He wouldn't be able to work New Japan. He'd just be stuck in a hotel with the belt, just doing nothing. It would be an opportunity for them to focus on the 12 other titles they have. Maybe debut the trios title, push the women's division. You got the TNT title, the TBS title, the alleged trios titles. You got 2 tag titles. There are plenty of other options besides having Tanahashi, should he be champion, on every week. But what personally is that I don't feel like he should have a mouthpiece or somebody speaking for him. One of the things that NXT started finally doing was that when they would have a non-native speaker, they would let them cut a promo in their native language because they have more confidence in their first language than trying to force it in a second language. Tanahashi works hard to study English, but again, like anyone else, standing in front of that many people and speaking in your first language is difficult. Trying to do it in a non-native language is even more difficult. But again, with Okada possibly going on paternity leave, I mean, good for him. It's Tanahashi always needs a side project, and if you're not going to have him in the world heavyweight championship picture, you're gonna let Ospreay have a run with the U.S. belt. Let Tana do it. Let him have some fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's interesting. I think the internet would all agree that Mox is winning this match, and yet we all think it's Tana.
Yeah,
Mox has a belt. Does he need it again? Really?
No,
No.
he doesn't need a belt.
Not even close.
He's doing perfectly fine with the Blackpool Combat Club.
I would agree.
And Karen's right, because she said complete truth right there. You want to put a belt? You want to elevate a belt? Put it on Tanahashi. You know.
Because and also the original match was supposed to be Tanahashi versus Punk.
Exactly.
So-
Why not have a unification match in the Tokyo Dome where you unify the belts and it gets defended and it makes it a world championship?
Thank you. That's exactly what I've been saying. You know that, front row. Karen read my mind. Put the belt on Tanahashi, have him hold it to Wrestle Kingdom, Punk Tanahashi, unification match, Tokyo Dome, Wrestle Kingdom. Book it already, Tony Khan and New Japan.
This advice is free, but I mean, you can float me a check, that'd be fine.
Yeah, if you can float me like a plane, like a flight and a ticket
Send
to
the
Wrestle
jet.
Kingdom. Yeah, send the jet and the ticket for Wrestle Kingdom. I'll sit in the bleachers way up in the nosebleeds. I just want to be there for it because I had the idea and me and Karen shared the same idea. So New Japan, you know, Karen, if you know people over there, like, let them know.
If I knew people there, I'd be working there. Let's be honest. I have friends that work there, but I don't ask them to get me a job there.
All I know is I need to get a picture of all of us at the Suidobashi station right outside Tokyo Dome.
Yes.
That is a cool place. You guys would totally dig it. All right, so I think we've caught up on everything. There's obviously the pre-show matches, which we really don't have time to go over tonight. Any other thoughts before we wrap up?
Ospreay Orange Cassidy?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Oh, my God. I think this, and it's funny because I was going to say this match is a match that people are sleeping on, and I almost slept on it. Thank you, Karen. I'm actually really excited for this match. I think people are really underselling how cool this match is going to be.
I think so, too. I think that I know there's a lot of people who give Orange Cassidy shit and for his shtick as the sloth, lazy guy. But we know how good Orange is in the ring. I saw him when he was a member of the Colony back in Chikara, for God's sakes. You know, he was that's how good he was. And to me, I think this is going to be an absolute classic. Will Ospreay, he can wrestle anybody. He can wrestle any talent with any style. As Will has gotten to that point, to me, he has been one of the most improved talents over the past 3-4 years. He's gained size. He's gained power. He's shifted his game to not take as many risks, but to be more of a power guy, using power bombs and chops and all different sorts of other power maneuvers instead of just going straight for the dive right off the hook. He showed that in matches, whether it be against Dax Harwood on Dynamite or Nick Wayne on GCW. He's done that thoroughly. He showcased that he can slow it down. And to me, the match with Orange Cassidy is the perfect foil because Orange will make him slow down. Orange will make him wrestle because Orange's shtick is I take my time, I don't care. So, but still, I think it's going to be an awesome match, and of course, Will's going to retain with a hidden blade and a Stormbreaker later. But I think it's going to be a great match nonetheless, and I'm definitely excited to watch that.
Yeah, Neil.
Yes. I feel like I've been saying it the whole show, and it pains me to say it, and pains me to agree with him this whole time, because I just don't want to. But yeah, I agree. As much as Will is an asshole heel, it works, you know, and it's said forever, multiple times. We've all heard it. On Busted Open, Bully Ray saying, Tommy Dreamer, Mark Henry, styles make fights. And this is a perfect clash of styles make fights, where you got Will Ospreay, who I never liked before until he started United Empire. And since United Empire, I've been a huge fan, you know, and the whole addition of all the people that he brought into United Empire. And Orange Cassidy, you know, just lazy sloth style, like, Okay, I'm going to put my hands in my pockets, but it's going to take me 5 minutes to put my hands up, to put them down, to put them in my pockets. But when he goes, he can go. So, but the whole caveat to the thing is, where does Juice Robinson tie in with still actually holding the IWGP US title? Because technically, New Japan stripped Juice and Will won the match to win the belt, but Juice, in Juice's mind, he still is the champion because he still holds the belt. So where does it's a like a double story, and I'm hooked on it because of the multiple different angles going into this.
Neil, I think the obvious answer is Juice Robinson teams up with Orange Cassidy and we get orange juice. You have to do it at some point.
This is where I play my rim shot sound effect right now.
So Will Ospreay has come full circle because about this time last year, he was IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. He got injured. He got stripped. He came back and said that he was a world champion because he had the belt. So now the shoe's on the other foot.
Yep.
I think, to his credit, we all know Ospreay is an amazing wrestler. He's very talented, but he can also do comedy. I think Cassidy is going to push his buttons to the point where he's going to feed into that comedy, even if it's just for a little bit. Where does Juice Robinson play into this? Juice Robinson is probably going to run in at the end and deny Ospreay the opportunity to pin Cassidy. He's going to make it a no contest. And he's going to hit him with the belt, and he's probably going to try to leave with the belt. Because if we learned anything from Windy City Riot that I was at, Juice Robinson is from Chicago or near Chicago. He's an Illinois boy. So why would he not be there? And that's where he said goodbye to the people of New Japan before he turned heel at Don Taco a couple of weeks later.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm excited for it. It's going to be a fun show. I know we're all going to be watching. I'll be on Zoom. And I do agree with my wife, who says Karen is a great addition.
Oh, thanks, Miss Front Row. Thank you.
Humans, you're one of my favorite people to talk to, and I can't thank you enough for spending your Saturday night with us tonight. We had a lot of fun.
I had a blast.
Always welcome to come on. Why don't you put yourself over and tell people where they can find you and what you have going on?
If you would like to follow my journey, I do women's wrestling coverage, basically based on Japan wrestling and Stardom over at postwrestling.com. You can just look up my name, Karen Peterson. It's right here. The latest issue of my weekly column, Dream Slam Weekly, came out today. Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Hey, Karen Sensei. That's where you can find me if you want to follow along on my journey, not just with women's wrestling, but for wrestling in general, or if you just want really cute pictures of my dog and all the food I eat. And probably the most notable thing for me right now is if you buy the October 2022 issue of Pro Wrestling Illustrated, I interviewed Hiroshi Tanahashi. My interview is 6 pages long, and it's in there, and it's one of the best ways. It's one of the happiest things I've ever accomplished.
That's awesome. Congratulations. So you are an official contributor.
I am this was my debut piece, and it's available digitally right now. It'll be available in print on July 12th.
That's awesome.
Wow. That's awesome.
So if you see it in the wild, take a picture and send it to me. Tag me in it.
Okay. Ezra, where can people find you?
You can find me at the Twitter handle there, Deadman469 on Twitter. You can also find where I'm also at every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, Our Nation Sports Show, where we talk all things sports and everything from NBA to the NFL to whatever we can get our hands on, including MMA and boxing as well. Every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, youtube.com. Just search Our Nation Sports Show, find us there.
Awesome. Neil?
Right there at the bottom, it says Too Sweet Neil. Twitter and Instagram, Craft Beer Neil. You know, I do indulge in the finer beers. some of them, some people may call them douchebag beers, but I just call them craft beer because that's what they are. But that, or on Twitter, as I said, right there on the screen, Too Sweet Neil, always about Japanese wrestling and pure wrestling. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. You can find our show on Twitter. We are at Nations Corner and across all other social platforms at The Nations Corner. Appreciate everybody joining us tonight. We ran a little long. Thanks for hanging with us, spending a few extra minutes. Enjoy the show tomorrow night, and we'll talk again next week. Have a great week, everyone.